Hey music fans, welcome back to another episode of Infinite Spin, the channel where I sift through the stats to bring you the best music of today. I'm Hayden, and today I've rounded up 5 of my favorite releases from the month of April. It was a solid month of spring releases, but for your sake, I kept it down to 5 that I think definitely deserve a listen. So let's get right into it. First up is Fetch the Boltcutters by Fiona Apple. It seems like each time Fiona Apple releases a new album, every 8 years or so, the music world goes ballistic with praise, and for good reason. When The Idler Wheel came out in 2012, I was just starting to really get into music, and that record felt like songwriting genius to me. Now, many years after I first heard Fiona Apple sing Every Single Night, she's gifted us with another work of art to unpack and fall in love with. As big as a concept as it is, what this album captures so well is the disjointed path Apple's taken to discovering a genuine identity. Whether it be in Shamika, where a middle school-aged version of herself is told that she has potential despite being bullied, or in Fetch the Boltcutters, which gives a message of setting your own path. It's clear these were lessons that Apple had to actually experience in her life in order to learn from. Another theme that resonates speaks of women's solidarity in the face of abusive men. There's a 1-2 punch in the middle of the album with Newspaper and Ladies, which both tell stories of making the choice to stick together and not competing for men that don't deserve it. Apple's voice is percussive, and the cadence of her lyrics is sometimes as interesting as the lyrics themselves. The rhythmic delivery of Relay is incredible, and then you unpack the lyrics that tell about how evil spreads, and the combination of the two is just awe-inspiring. Speaking of cadence, Apple's inventive approach to percussion with claps or hitting what sounds like household objects really adds to the DIY collage of sound across the record. What I love about her approach is the imperfection that it doesn't try to mask. There's so much sterility in music today that it's refreshing to hear voice cracks, dogs barking, or even mess-ups like in On I Go where Apple curses after messing up the lyrics. But when she leaves those things in, the music becomes more genuine and vulnerable. I think that Fetch the Boltcutters is Apple's most personally realized album to date. She's gathered enough emotional wisdom through pain to create something that's inspiring and instructive. And I think that makes it worthy of all the acclaim it's gotten. I expect that the more time I spend with Fetch the Boltcutters, the more it will wrap around my heart the same way that The Idler Wheel did. And I'm sure I'll have many years to digest it. Next up is The New Abnormal by The Strokes. When a band's debut album makes history, it often seems like they become cursed to never reach that first exciting musical high. The simple slacker bliss of Is This It?, the 2001 record that put The Strokes on the map and brought indie rock into a new era, it seemed unattainable with each follow-up. That is until 2 decades later, with the release of The New Abnormal. The strangest thing about the group's return to music after 7 years is that it works because it doesn't sound like a comeback. It just sounds like The Strokes. If it weren't for the drum machine that plays on the album's opener, The Adults Are Talking, this song could easily be on Is This It? It's got simple rhythmic guitars, a steady rhythm, and most importantly, the nonchalant vocals of Julian Casablancas. He even goes into some beautiful falsetto riffing at the end. The first of many reminders that he sounds better than ever on this record. Even the riskier parts of The New Abnormal pay off, like the synthier tracks, Brooklyn Bridge to Chorus, and Endless Summer, which are both absolute grooves. Most of the electronic experimentation happens in the middle of the record, but it's bookended by one of the most genuine tracks the Strokes have ever written, Ode to the Mets. If you're looking for one track to display the passion of a band that's built a career off displaying none, it's right there in A Ballad to New York City and the Strokes' many years of playing as a band. This album's about to become my soundtrack to a quarantine summer. And though I wish it was under different circumstances, I'm still thankful that the Strokes are back. Next up is Heaven to a Tortured Mind by Yves Tumor. Sean Bowie, the mind behind Yves Tumor, is an artist that defies genre. His music contains elements of soul, art pop, electronica, and glam, and he incorporates them all together in a way that's really innovative and exciting. While most of the songs off Heaven to a Tortured Mind start with a rhythmic backbone of bass and drums, What builds off that is constantly shifting, alongside Bowie's pronounced voice. Medicine Burn, for example, has chaotic guitar slides and distortion, while A Greater Love has twinkling synths. It's bipolar in the best of ways, always wavering between aggression and sensuality. If there's one song that deserves a good listen more than the rest, it's the opener, Gospel for a New Century. It really does a good job of not letting experimentation get in the way of catchiness. With repeated samples of blasting horns, it's far from a conventional pop song. But the dark mood builds to a catchy chorus that really sticks around in your head. Moments like this, when Yves Tumor can allow a sound collage to build into a mood that's greater than its parts, that's when the music really excels. The blend of styles across Heaven to a Tortured Mind is the sort of expression that creates musical movements. And while I don't think Yves Tumor is quite there yet, it's been exciting to see his sound evolve and challenge the way that we label experimental artists. Next up is Song for Our Daughter by Laura Marling. As young as she sounds, Laura Marling's songwriting has been appreciated for over a decade, with 7 full-length albums under her belt. With her latest release, Song for Our Daughter, she gives us a gentle collection of honest, stripped-down folk music. The record sneaks up on you with gentle acoustic instrumentation and Marling's soft voice, all of which reminds me of Joni Mitchell. But similar to Mitchell, the lyrical imagery and vulnerability across each track finds a way to stab you in the heart. The stories across the album are kept vague by Marling, like she's keeping the full narrative to herself, but giving us glimpses of it with her imagery. This comes in one-line sentiments, like "Only the wrong relive their lives, we've been here 1,000 times, on only the strong." There's also a great assurance of "Stay low, keep brave," on Strange Girl. By keeping her sound stripped down to very few instruments on these tracks, Marling's voice stays the center of attention, and it allows these lines to carry the weight of her reflection. It's as tragic as it is beautiful, a perfect album for the quiet nights where our minds can't help but wander into the past. The last album I want to cover from April is It Is What It Is by Thundercat. What do you get when you cross a devoted anime nerd with a musical prodigy? The result is a jazzy odyssey through space that's as impressive as it is hilarious. A dynamic that could only work for Thundercat. Something that works to Thundercat's advantage is the community of musicians that he's built his career around. The record was produced by Flying Lotus and features saxophone from Kamasi Washington, both esteemed musicians in their own right. You can hear the contributions right away on Interstellar Love, with a dense hip-hop production and high-flying sax riffs. Then we get to Thundercat himself, who takes the genres of funk and jazz and neo-soul and throws them all together into a cauldron of madness. Instead of sticking just to rhythm, he uses his bass as a lead for the most bizarre flourishes that weave their way through each track. Then we get Thundercat's high-pitched vocals singing about love and seduction and video games to top everything off. Sometimes it makes no sense, but that's just part of the fun. For as talented as he is, Thundercat's best quality is not taking his music too seriously. There's a song on this called House Sway after the Kanye outburst, Dragon Ball Do-Rag, and a lot of lyrics about drunk partying. Even with all the irreverence, real heartbreak shows up on the album's closer, It Is What It Is, which pays tribute to Mac Miller, who was close friends with Thundercat. This approach to music turns old genres like jazz into something that can be appreciated by modern listeners who don't care to listen to their dad's dusty Herbie Hancock records. And at the end of the day, with all the bass slapping and weird harmonies, it's a really fun listen. Alright, that about does it for my 5 favorite releases of last month. If you've heard any of these, let me know what you think down in the comments, or feel free to let me know what I missed out on. But until we meet again, this is Hayden with Infinite Spin. Make sure to keep that turntable rolling, and we'll talk about some more great music next time.